Hello and welcome back to Lawbits. Today we will be carrying on from our previous subject, the Awoken. In the last video we looked into how they came to be, and today we're going to be looking into what came next, a life in the Distributary. After all of the passengers were found and awoken, they called together a council who would decide upon 9 verdicts that they should all live by. The first was that the people were awoken, and they were immortal. Second, that this world was tributary of another, but that it was forbidden to seek any way to rejoin the mother stream. For this reason it would be called the Distributary, for that was the proper name for a river that branched from the mother and does not return. Third, that the awoken should multiply in wombs of flesh and machine, but only after the most careful forecast of population and ecology, and only under the supervision of those who knew the good technology, for each child would be immortal also. Fourth, that those wise in the good technology should be heralded and heeded, so that the U-technology could be preserved. They would be called U-techs. Fifth, that the women should hold care and protection of the men, until others could be born. Sixth, that the purpose of the awoken should be to know and love the cosmos. Seventh, that the awoken were created out of a covenant with light and darkness, but the covenant was complete and no further debt would ever be called, except the duty of the second verdict to remain on the Distributary. Eighth, that the awoken were whole in themselves and existed in balance. And the ninth and final verdict was that there would be no vote, but instead Alice Lee would be recognized as Queen. And her first pronunciation was that there would be no secrets among the awoken. And so it came to be the awoken would enter a great time of creation and pioneering, as they went out and explored their new world. But even here, in their paradise, their Garden of Eden, conflict would ensue. The awoken spread far across the Distributary and took many diverse lifestyles, and would have many differences in opinions. But one subject would have the awoken people divided in particular: the seventh verdict. Those in the cities in particular believed in the seventh verdict, that stated that they were of a complete covenant between light and dark, and so they had no responsibility or debt to the universe. The name given to those of this belief was sanguine. But those who lived within the country, as many did, were of the Ecolist belief. They believed they owed a massive debt, and that the clash of titanic forces that led to their rebirth was still going on, and that this cosmic debt would need to be repaid eventually. These two polar opposite ideologies couldn't be brought into balance by any simple means. An Ecolist, known as the Diasurm, walked into the cities and loudly accused Queen Alice Lee of deicide, the murder of gods. When questioned about this claim, she stated that when Alice Lee had created the world, she could have conceived it to create the awoken as gods, so that they might be free from all forms of suffering and pain. Deicide seemed the most appropriate term. But with this claim came evidence of an original sin, but more than that, it represented a secret that Alice Lee had kept, even after she had declared that there were to be no secrets among the awoken. The division between the sanguine and the Ecolists escalated and led to conflict. This would be dubbed the Theodicy Wars, and whilst the conflict was small in scale, people still died, and the balance between the two sides had to be struck, and a peace needed to be brokered, and a truce would be negotiated. The monarchy of the awoken would lose power over time, and a new source of power would arise. A new group of scholars would become extremely influential during this time. They were called the scribes, some of which still exist within the warlock orders of today. The scribes were aware that Mara and Alrdin, who had been reborn as Alrdin, were gathering law and prophecies that pointed towards the day that they would have to leave the Distributary and repay their debt, and that they knew that this would cause another theodicy war. So when a tall warrior named Shur came to the court of the scribes and demanded the information to hunt and kill Mara Sov, they were happy to oblige. However, a second queen was rising in the Awoken monarchy. Nagoya Pin received a cloaked woman in her court. Some believe it to have been Mara, others believe it to be the Diacern. Regardless, after a long time of having the cloaked figure reside within her court, the monarch declared herself a true Ecolist, and redirected the motives of the scribes to the Ecolist movement. And so the royal palace was transformed into a centre of learning that would advance the Ecolist cause further than it had ever done before. Shur walked into the palace in search of Mara, who she believed to be the hooded woman, and followed her down into a laboratory. However, when she drew her weapon, she stopped when she gazed upon Mara, as she was enchanted by Mara's beauty and grace, and exclaimed that she could not kill Mara, but the debt of her battle was still owed, so Mara called upon her brother Alrdin to fight in her stead. Alrdin suggested, rather than simply one duel, to separate it over 3 duels, with blade, rifle, and 5th generation air superiority fighters. News of this would spread fast, and this, along with the prospect of Mara's murder, troubled the Jensam scribes, as they did not want to appear as though they had invited death into the Queen's council, much less the person who educated the Queen on her beliefs. So they fled, and as they did so, other scholars would grow hesitant and would withdraw their support to the new Queen. Nagoya Pin, in response, declared that the scribes were faithless and selfish. This, in turn, would only further the divide between the Sanguine and the Ecolist. Tensions rose further throughout the matches, as the first with knives saw Shur's simpler jabs compete against Aldrin's blade techniques. However, neither could gain any ground on the other, so it was called a draw. During the second, they would choose long rifles, and would proceed to hunt each other in the jungle for days, whilst Alrdin would once again demonstrate his finesse and cunning by attempting to blend in with nature to secure an advantage. Shur's simpler method of disturbing nature to flush him out would actually prove to be the most potent. She shot Alrdin as he crossed a riverbed, which wounded him but did not kill him. The final round was in 5th generation fighters with a full range of weapons that would be available to their particular ship. However, if a particular weapon wouldn't be available, it would be simulated, and if a simulated kill was to be secured, it would be treated as equal to a real kill, as the Awoken didn't keep all weapons around. In particular, a nuclear payload was not something the Awoken had around, as they would have been disposed of long ago. Shur chose an ermine tactical fighter equipped with heat-seeking missiles, whilst Alrdin chose a ship known as a Dart, an exceedingly old fighter with terrible onboard computings, and was outmatched in almost every way. Shur accepted the challenge, and 8 miles out from her contact with Alrdin, her computer had informed her that Alrdin, in a simulated way, had killed her. Not just her, but everything in a 4-mile radius. Long ago, when the Awoken had used the Dart, it was equipped with ship-to-ship nuclear payloads in its arsenal, and Alrdin had simulated firing one of these, and so had won the final round. Informing Mara that the duels were fought to a standstill, Shur left her fate up to Mara, and Mara raised Shur's face and said, "Join me and serve." And so she did. From that day until her dying, served as Mara's right hand. Later, Mara would finally put her plan into motion. She told the Awoken people and her followers that the time of reckoning was at hand, where they would have to return to the universe from whence they came, to fulfill their cosmic debt. And so, an expeditionary force was formed, creating a basis for the journey back to Sol through the black hole. The expedition was 12.1 billion years in the making, for time moves slower within the black hole. Before she departed, there were two things she needed to do. The first was to ask for a boon from the first queen, Alice Lee. The second was to say goodbye to her mother who was happy in the Distributary and didn't want to change in return. Despite all of Mara's cunning and power, her mother would stay behind no matter how much they argued. Regardless, Mara would try one last time, and their final words would be of bitterness and were of an unresolved nature. This, however, was nothing compared to what Mara would receive later. As she went to Alice Lee, she went with the intention of sharing the entire truth. And for this truth, the boon that she would ask for was forgiveness. Alice Lee had long suspected that Mara had played a role in setting up the Ecolist movement and the Diocem, but she had no idea the true scope or brilliance of Mara's design. Mara told Alice the truth, that Alice only believed she was the first of the new people, and that she only believed it because Mara had designed it so. It was Mara who had created the world and all of its flaws. Mara who had engineered a divide in the people so that they would never be satisfied. Mara who created all this suffering. Mara who had created evil and invited it into their paradise, so that 12.1 billion years later, she could enact her plan to take back as many through the black hole to help fight in the cosmic war that created them. It was for the suffering that she had created, the first sin that she had placed in the heart of their paradise, that she had asked forgiveness for. However, Alice Lee did not offer forgiveness. Instead, she enacted fury. It was time for Mara to go, and the expedition to depart and return to the world of their original birth. However, a retribution had come for her. As missiles from the Distributary's planet were fired at them, Mara would set the emergency launch. Despite the missile attack damaging some of the ships, they made it through mostly unharmed. As they emerged through the singularity, they had arrived in Sol. Thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of Lorbits. The support that I've received throughout this entire venture has just been so overwhelmingly incredible, and I wouldn't be able to keep doing it if it wasn't for the support that you guys had given me. Next week we'll be looking into the final part of the Awoken trilogy episodes, and I hope you'll enjoy that as much as you've enjoyed the previous two. Now, for those who do follow me on Instagram, I would like to say a quick apology. My phone has permanently died and I haven't been able to post. That said, I have arranged a solution, and it should be in play for Monday coming. As an apology, next week we'll have double content drops on Insta, as well as the usual YouTube. So if you want to catch that, check out @AfroBob1 on Instagram. The link will be in the description below. Also, if you would like to see a lighter side of me, then check out my Twitch. I've just arranged a schedule there, and I will be streaming on Thursdays, Saturdays and Sundays at around 9 to 10 PM British Summer Time. So if you could, go hit follow. We're on the road to affiliate. Again, that's going to be @AfroBob1 at Twitch. Again, the link will be down below. Now back onto this video. If you have enjoyed it, as always, please give the like button a push. It tells me that you've really enjoyed what I've done and you'd like to see more of it. If you never want to miss a video, then be sure to give that sub button a nice little tap. But as always, please know that you simply sticking around and listening to me is more than I could ever ask, and for that I'll say thank you. I will see all of you in the next video.